Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic, and today we'll be doing the second part of the trade videos. This one will be Jerry Dipoto's top 5 best trades, plus a few extras that I'm going to talk about. There are going to be a lot more trades that I talk about in this video versus the last one, as Jerry Dipoto has made a lot of under-the-radar trades that I'll include as kind of honorable mentions. Some of the trades on this list you might expect, some others you probably won't. But before we get into the top 5, I want to talk about a couple other trades that are not on this list. The Mitch Haniger and Gene Segura for Ketel Marte and Taijuan Walker trade will not be on this list, as the players on this list were based off of value that the Mariners got and the other team did not. Looking at WAR and comparable stats, the Ketel Marte Haniger trade was fairly even. Haniger has spent quite a bit of time on the injured list. Segura was traded to the Phillies for J.P. Crawford, and so we only got a limited amount of value out of Segura. So overall, though it was a good trade, it was a good trade for both sides, and so therefore it kind of cancels each other out and doesn't make it on this list. But I just wanted to talk about that one real quick. The other one I want to talk about is the trade with the Padres this past season. Austin Nola, Austin Adams, and Dan Altavilla to the Padres for Taylor Trammell, Luis Torrens, Ty France, and Andres Munoz was a great trade, and I think it's going to do wonders for us. However, it still has time to pan out. Austin Nola has played well for the Padres. If you don't look at his average, he's still been a very good player for them. Austin Adams has pitched very well for him. Unfortunately, Altavilla just went down with Tommy John, but Andres Munoz is still coming back from Tommy John for us in that trade, so that's fairly even there as well. Now, if Ty France continues to be the player that he is, I would say it's a W, and it would be even better if Trammell turned into something. Luis Torrens, not my favorite, but overall, this trade is too early to call, but I would say it was a good trade. Along with that, the Taylor Williams for Matt Brash trade that happened at the deadline last year as well was also a solid trade. Matt Brash looks really good. He's playing for Everett right now, but it's too early to make the call on that one, as there's still a lot of time for him to bust, get hurt, or whatnot before he makes the big club. So really quick before we get to the top 5, a few honorable mentions. The Omar Narvaez trade, trading Alex Colome to the White Sox to get Narvaez, was a good trade for us. Trading for Tom Murphy with the Rockies was a good trade. Nick Vincent, we got him back in the early days of Dipoto's time as GM. That was a good trade. And then, as I mentioned, the Taylor Williams trade with the Padres last year was also an under-the-radar honorable mention. With that said, I am now going to get into the top 5. And that first trade on our list is going to be in 2017, the Mariners traded Nate Carnes for Gerard Dyson of the Kansas City Royals. Nate Carnes was a big bust, and it's amazing how we were able to offload him to the Royals. We got Dyson in return, who has been a solid player his whole career, kind of a light hitter, but he's a great defender. In that following year that we traded for him, Dyson was huge for us. He put up a WAR of just about 2.1, batted 251, 85 OPS plus, so he's a little bit below average on the hitting side, but he had an 80 stolen base percentage, only a 14% K rate, which is huge, good contact guy. He had 15 defensive runs saved in center field and an 8.5 UZR. He was an extremely productive outfielder in 111 games before he went down with an injury towards the end of the season. So it was just 1 year, but it was a very productive year out of Gerard Dyson. And so that's going to be number 5 on this list. Number 4, another one you might not expect, but Mike Leake from the St. Louis Cardinals. At the time, his contract was huge, and you might have looked at this trade and been like, ugh, kind of risky. However, the guy we traded, Raider Escanio, is still in the minor leagues with the Cardinals. He's at AAA right now, batting 141. He has been in the minors for a while, and unless he breaks out or turns things around, this trade is looking like a pretty big W for us. We also traded Mike Leake and got some value out of him, trading for Jose Caballero, an infielder from the Diamondbacks back in 2019. We were also able to get $750,000 to use towards international players, which is huge in this day and age. That's how we find guys like Julio Rodriguez, Felix Hernandez, and those players. Also, the Cardinals gave us $17 million for Leake's contract. We ended up paying Leake $21 million out of what initially was supposed to be 3 years and 48. But looking at his time in Seattle, he was very solid. He was 22 and 19, 4.16 ERA, 4.19 FIP, so pretty even there, 101 ERA plus. And you might look at that and say, oh, he's league average starter. Having a guy like that as a 4 or 5 starter is pretty solid. And he was very productive in his time with the Mariners in those one full season and parts of 2017 and 2019. He had almost 5 WAR as well and was a consistent piece in that rotation. So overall, I would say that the Mike Leake trade with the Cardinals and with the Diamondbacks later on was a very productive trade for the Mariners. So moving on to number 3 and then also number 2, these are both going to be kind of combined, so bear with me. But the Edwin Encarnacion trades combined with the Gene Segura JP Crawford trade are the number 3 and number 2 best trades under Jerry Dipoto's reign. 2018 trades for Jerry Dipoto were all very solid. Talking about the Edwin Encarnacion trade first, we were able to flip Carlos Santana to the Indians in the JP trade and get Encarnacion. In 2019, Encarnacion hit 241, 356 on base, 531 slug, with 21 home runs, 49 RBIs, before we were able to trade him to the Yankees. And in return, we were able to get Juan Ten back, who was our number 7 prospect on the top 30 list, as well as get a Comp B pick, which turned out to be Isaiah Campbell, who was our number 10 prospect. So we were able to get a lot of value out of Edwin Encarnacion, both on and off the field. Now, talking about those related trades with the Phillies, and what would be number 2 on this list, is trading Gene Segura, Juan Nicasio, and James Pazos to the Phillies for Carlos Santana, who we flipped for Edwin Encarnacion, and JP Crawford. Now, we didn't make up a whole lot of ground financially in the Edwin and Santana trade. However, we made up a lot of financial flexibility with the Gene Segura trade. In that trade, we netted about $50 million. Segura's contract had about $70 million left on it. Santana's was about 20. And then in the later trade, Edwin's contract was about $25 million. But this one was huge, as Juan Nicasio was good for the Mariners, but did not pitch very well for the Phillies. And then James Pazos has been with several teams since that trade, and we haven't been missing much. Looking at Gene Segura, yes, he was a good hitter, but he wasn't really a big power threat. He's going to hit 300, maybe get you about 10 to 15 home runs, 60 to 70 RBIs a season. As a shortstop, his defense was not great. Since being traded to the Phillies, they've moved him to second, back and forth between second, third, and short. And it's just been clear in games that I've seen that his defense is not solid overall. What we got in return, JP Crawford, who early on it was looking like it might not have been a good trade. However, this year he has broken out. Ever since he's came to Seattle, his defense has been great, but we've just been waiting for the bat to turn it around. But since coming to the Mariners, JP has 17 defensive runs saved. 0 in his first year, 6 last year, and then 11 so far this year, with still a lot more season to go. And this year, he's finally turning it around with the bat. These stats are a couple days old, so they might have changed within the past couple days. But his WAR is up to about 2.8 with a 281 batting average and a 110 OPS plus. Now, he is light hitting. He's not going to hit for much power, but his defense is much better than Segura's. And for pretty comparable hitters, contact-wise, I'm taking JP all day, every day. JP has been a great piece, not only on the field, but in the clubhouse and in the community. He's been an inspiration for a lot of people. Initially, I was pretty tough on JP, especially about his hitting. I had no problem with his defense, but the hitting last year and the year before, I was like, come on, we need more. But he's proved me wrong this year, and I'm glad he has. And I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward and keep this up. So as I mentioned, I kind of combined trades 3 and 2 together as they were kind of intertwined. Jerry Dipoto's number 1 best trade that he has made in his time in Seattle. This one you can probably guess. You should be able to guess it. It is the Robinson Cano trade. We traded Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz along with $20 million to the New York Mets for Justin Dunn, Jared Kelenic, Jay Bruce, Anthony Swarzak, and Gerson Bautista. Now, Cano is a polarizing player. In his time in Seattle, he was actually very good. Batted .296, 353 on base, 472 slug, 826 OPS with a 129 OPS plus, 107 home runs, and 411 RBIs. However, along with that came a PED suspension in 80 games in 2018 and a couple injuries along the way. Now, losing Edwin Diaz sucked. 57 saves for us in 2018, and after having a little bit of a rough 2019, was good in 2020 and is good again here in 2021. So Diaz, especially with our bullpen right now, it would be awesome to have a lockdown closer, but unfortunately that's just not the case. However, the real win in this is we saved $100 million. Just think about that for a second. We saved $100 million. And if you look back at the Segura trade with the Phillies, we saved 50 there. So overall, this offseason in 2018, heading into 2019, Jerry Dipoto wiped off $150 million off the books. That is some incredible work. But getting back to the trade, Justin Dunn has turned out to be a solid starter so far for us. I'm not sure if he'll stick in the rotation. I think he's better in the bullpen long term, but we'll see what happens there. Jay Bruce was flipped later on, but he was productive for us when we had him. Anthony Swarzak didn't do much. That was just for money purposes, both those guys, to help even out the trade. Unfortunately, Gerson Bautista did not pan out for us. There's thought that he could be the next Edwin Diaz, but unfortunately he had injury issues, and then when he came back, he just wasn't solid. So they let him go. Lastly, Jared Kelenic was the big piece in this trade. He finally made his major league debut this year. Unfortunately, it was not super solid, and he's back at AAA, but he'll be back at some point this season, and there's still a lot of confidence in him that he's going to have a solid career moving forward. But regardless of how Kelenic does or Justin Dunn does, we've already won this trade by clearing $100 million off of Cano's contract. Now, the Mets did luck out a little bit as Cano was suspended again for PEDs, and they likely don't have to pay any more of his contract. But regardless, we still got $100 million off the books, which we will likely be spending this next offseason to make a playoff push. So there you have it, guys. There are the top 5 best trades that Jerry Dipoto has made in his time as general manager for the Seattle Mariners, along with some other honorable mentions. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If there's any trades maybe that I missed that you thought should be on there. But overall, I think this list is pretty solid. Like, subscribe, comment below your thoughts, and stay tuned for some more trade-themed videos coming as the month goes along and the trade deadline gets near. With that said, I'll see you guys next time. Mariners Fanatic, out.